So there's this ancient story that is based here on this lake and in these mountains that surround this lake, and no one tells it. Like it's like an untold story, but it has been told through the last millennium plus. It's just that no one really tells it now, and so it felt like, as Kev and I are here, it would be nice to tell it. So the story starts with a mother, a woman, a sorceress, an enchantress, and she's called Cerridwen. She lives up in the hills over the top there near the town of Bala, and she has 2 children, and her firstborn, her daughter, is the most beautiful girl in the whole of Wales, and her secondborn, her son, it is said that he is as ugly as his sister is beautiful. He's a good-hearted boy, but Cerridwen knows that in order for him to make his way in the world, for him to be respected and perceived as someone of influence, that there's something that she's going to have to do to help bring those qualities out in him so they can be seen and felt by everyone. And so she decides that she's going to try and bottle this magic force that runs through her, this force that's called Awen. So Awen is like concentrated creative inspiration. It's like the life force of everything. It is the energy that gives rise to new ideas and truth and beauty and wisdom. And she feels it, and she also thinks that she might be able to somehow concentrate it and bottle it and then hand it over to her son, and that if he has this power, he'll be good in the world. Like he'll be fine. He'll be a force to be reckoned with. So Cerridwen's kind of she's like a herbologist. She knows the ways of the land, and she chooses exactly the right herbs from all around this lake, puts them in a cauldron, and over 366 days finds a way to get that cauldron of Awen stirred to build up that force of creative inspiration. But she's a busy woman, and so she knows she can't do this all by herself. So she gets this local kid from the town over here, an innocent boy called Gwion. And his job is, when Cerridwen's sleeping, is he's got to keep stirring the pot. And he's diligent and innocent. And so for those 1 year and 1 day, he sits by that pot, stirring that pot, making it ready so that Awen is getting concentrated so it can be given to Cerridwen's son. But on the final day, on the day that that force is concentrating and becoming something really magical, he's stirring the pot, and at some point around midnight, he falls asleep. He drops the ladle, and 3 drops of this Awen-filled magic potion leap out of the cauldron and onto his hand. He wakes up. He is instantly changed. He knows something's happened. He can suddenly see the past and the future and now. He can feel everything that's happening in the local environment. He knows he is no longer the boy he was just minutes before. And because he knows this, he knows that Cerridwen is going to be furious. That those 3 drops of magic power that were meant for her son, that he will now no longer be able to have gone to Gwion. Cerridwen knows this as well. She has filled herself with this magical power of Awen. She wakes up instantly and she recognises that Gwion is now infused with this power of Awen. Gwion feels her waken up. He decides that his only way of escaping is to turn into something fast that he can run away as quickly as he can over these mountains. And so he turns himself into a hare, his bones breaking, he's shrinking in size, he's growing this hair, he starts to run. But Cerridwen's fast. She's already turned herself into a hound. She is racing across the mountains. She's gonna get him, he knows it. They come down these hills here, she's hot on his tail. And he, noticing the river, thinks, oh, this is my escape. he is able to shapeshift his entire body into the shape of a salmon. He dives into the river and goes as fast as he can across this lake, trying to escape her, but she knows exactly what he's going to do before he does. She turns herself into an otter, this kind of really fast-moving, slick, aerodynamic. It is through that water and it's on his tail before he can even think twice. So he thinks, okay, this is not working, I've got to get out of this. He leaps out of the water, turns himself into a dove. He soars high above these mountains. But Cerridwen knows that game too, and within seconds she is a hawk. Her eyes are locked on him. They are moving as fast as light across these mountains. She is gonna get him, he knows it. He goes for his final transformation. Here, he has a different idea. He turns into a grain of wheat. As a grain, he falls through the air onto a pile of grains that sit in a farmyard. He is invisible. How could she possibly know which grain he is? But Cerridwen's a sorceress. She's possibly the most powerful enchantress this land has ever known, and so she turns herself into a hen. She glides down, lands on this pile of seeds, and begins this slow, painstaking process of sorting the wheat from the chaff, working out which of these seeds contains this power of Awen, picking them up, spitting them out, until finally she finds the one that she knows is Gwion, swallows it, and then begins to digest it in her own stomach. What happens next is kind of magical. This seed starts to break down. Everything that was once this little boy is no longer there, but there is something of a magic force still left over. It starts to meld with what's happening inside Cerridwen herself, and over 9 full moons, 9 full months, Cerridwen's belly grows. She gives birth to a baby, and when she looks at that baby, she knows it's a new version of Gwion. It's the most beautiful child she's ever seen. She can't bring herself to kill him. She knows it's what she should do, she must do, that law says that he has stolen this power from that which should have been her son, but she can't do it. And so she wraps this baby in a kind of leather pouch and she sets him off along the river here, hoping that he might find his own way. That baby eventually finds its way to a town further downstream, picked up by a local farmer, and taken into that home. Within a few short years, what becomes clear as day is this baby is no ordinary baby. It's the living embodiment of creative inspiration. It's the first bard, the first poet of these British Isles, able to spin stories that capture audiences far and wide, that whip up this magic just for the pure use of his own words. His name is Llyn. Yeah, and he's a magician of words, a magician of song. So, what can we learn from this story? There are a few things that really hit me about the story of Cerridwen and Gwion and Llyn. The first is this idea that the standard bearer of creative inspiration on these British Isles was a woman. That she understood deeply already what it meant to be fueled by a life force that was entirely linked to the creative power of the universe, that she had the potential to bottle it and direct it where she wanted to. The second thing is the story of transformation, and it tells us that transformation doesn't just happen like that. It happens through the dedication of a year and a day of relentless focus and the naivety as to what might come. It comes not immediately, but through constant challenge, whether that's being transformed from a hare into a salmon, out into a dove, then into a piece of grain, that these transformations are painful. They completely change the nature of who we are. It's it's not pleasant. But on the following side, we can get through those points. Cerridwen will always be at our heels until the transformation is complete. And that's when we can become something kind of magical. A singer of songs, a bringer of magic and spells, someone or something that is deeply interlinked with the creative power of the universe. That's Taliesin. And that is available to all of us. Yeah, and finally, I think what we take from this story is the fact that it's a story that is embedded here, in this lake, on these lands in North Wales. That it's a story that's been told for nearly 2,000 years, and yet we don't tell it. Why are we telling stories of wild magic from lands so far away from these ones when we've got our own right here, and they're wide and rich and passionate and violent and transformative? And maybe there's something to be learned from that. Maybe we could visit somewhere like this and feel some of that. Maybe we need some of that. And so that's what I take from this story, and that's why we're here.